Good evening, Cebu. Good evening, Philippines. It's open mic night tonight, and tonight we have all the way from the U.S., from West Point, the United States Military Academy, a Filipino American who's making waves there, literally, as he slices through the water as a swimmer for West Point. Josh Sembrano. Josh,
hi.
Welcome to the show.
Nice to meet you. It's a pleasure.
Well, welcome back to the Philippines. Your dad is Sembrano,
Yes.
and your mom is from Manila.
Yes.
But your dad is from USC, University of San Carlos.
Yes.
Carolinian, like me, like our fellow Carolinians here. Tingog Carolinian. So, you're here on vacation.
I am.
When do you go back to the US?
Friday.
Friday.
Yeah.
And then it's back to swimming and studies.
Yes.
What year are you in?
I'm going to be going into my 3rd year at West Point.
But you're actually a family of swimmers, no? Your sister is also part of the team.
At West Point, yeah.
Yeah. But tell us about how you. I know I'm quite familiar that your dad was your coach.
Yes.
Yeah, and even before you joined West Point, you were already competing in high school. How was it?
Having my dad as a coach.
Yeah, and the whole experience as an athlete.
Interesting. I mean, it taught me a lot. My dad was very strict on making sure I always got it down. I always worked the hardest. I always pushed myself and the others around me. And yeah, it was difficult sometimes, but it was worth it.
So he was like a stage father.
In a way.
In a way.
I mean,
did you at times resent that arrangement that you had with your dad? Because definitely this is if you're prepubescent, you're an adolescent, you'd like to be going out and not spending time training.
Of course. I mean, when I started swimming when I was 10. He started being my full-time coach when I was 12. And then at that time, it was really hard. As a 12-year-old, we'd spend hours in the house watching videos, just him talking to me, trying to get me to improve and get my sisters to improve. And at that time, I hated swimming. There were times where I didn't want to do the sport anymore.
You say you started when you were 10. You started to compete. But of course before that.
It was just like, hey.
When did you start like swimming?
Just casually.
Yeah.
Probably when I was like 5, 6. And then my dad wanted me to try out for a team. So then he taught me competitive swimming when I was 9.
And then you joined when you were 10. But your dad was always a swimmer? Here?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so there was a time that it was very difficult.
Yeah, but that was only for a little bit, up until my freshman year of high school. And then something changed where I finally realized that my dad was doing this for my benefit. And everything he was doing, no matter how hard he was on me, it was for my benefit and my growth as a young man.
How did you come to that realization?
Just looking how hard he worked and how he'd be up late watching videos of swimming just to show my sisters and I and eventually his own swim team on what's the fastest way, what's the best way to become better in swimming. And just that effort he put in, not only just during our practice, but also in the mornings, at breakfast, at nights before he went to bed. Sometimes he wouldn't sleep, just watching videos of swimming.
Swimming. So you compete in all categories, or
so
is there a particular stroke that?
Growing up, I did everything. My dad made me do everything. But I was recruited to West Point for backstroke. So
backstroke.
Yeah.
Wow. For me, that's the hardest.
I love it.
Really?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I find it harder, even compared to butterfly.
Really?
Yeah. Do you dive?
Like off the platforms and diving boards?
Diving?
No.
It's really just swimming?
It's just swimming.
Okay. So now you compete and you concentrate on backstroke. Your sister?
Backstroke also, but she's at West Point, she's more of a mix, backstroke and butterfly.
Oh, not freestyle?
No. I do relays with freestyle, but it's mostly backstroke for individuals.
And how, like what categories for backstroke?
All of them, 50, 100, and 200 back.
Wow. Yeah. That's. I used to compete in swimming.
Oh, really? In
high school, City Olympics. But I was just freestyle. That's the only category. Freestyle 50. I was a medalist. I think gold. Yeah. But that see, I'm fast, but I don't have endurance. So up to 50. Even in track,
Yeah,
it's 50. It's only up
that's
to
the best event. Don't worry.
I won't push further than that. But I think in the U.S. you're lucky. You're pretty lucky because at least you have a better sports program. The Philippines, I think, deserves an overhaul of how we do our physical education here. I have a lot of I have so much opinion when it comes to that, but let's reserve that for later. So, but do you see yourself because you're training to be a soldier? Do you see yourself focused on swimming more than as a career?
As a career, I'd say more of an army guy than a swimmer, and
Okay.
yeah,
You really see yourself as a soldier,
yes,
despite there's a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding the war in Iraq and everything else.
I agree.
Yeah.
But West Point isn't really just training me to be a soldier, it's more training me to be a leader of people. So although I'm going to be directly in charge of soldiers, I'm going to be directly in charge of everyone around that. And as a leader, I'm in charge of the moral ethics of war. So although those conspiracies possibly did or didn't happen, when I become an officer in the Army, it's my responsibility to make sure the people under me do the right thing. So although that did happen, I did not have myself to do with it. And when I commission as an officer, I have the control of making sure the people under me do the right thing.
A Filipino president is a West Pointer. President Fidel Ramos.
Yep.
He was there, seated where you are.
Really?
Yeah. December. That was December of last year. We had him here. Do you ever talk about him in West Point because he became a head of state?
So yeah, he's definitely recognized as one of the big West Point alumni. Yep. And my dad talks about him. My dad, that's how I know about everything going on in Philippine athletics, everything going on in the politics, and that's what makes me want to learn more about the Philippines every day. Comes straight from my dad.
From your dad.
Yeah.
But in West Point, I mean, how focused is it on military studies? I mean, is there room for other things?
There is. It's still a regular college, but our core curriculum, every single class kind of has its hands in the military development, whether it's psychology, philosophy, we have a military science class dedicated to ethics. And every single class, or more like most of the classes, are led by officers.
How many boys and girls? I mean, what's the ratio?
I think it's 20% female, 80% male, and they're trying to make it more even.
What about, it's a big issue in the US, I know, gays in the military. Does West Point have a official stand on the matter, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's completely okay. It's absolutely fine.
Is it even encouraged?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gay, it's good.
Are there
fine.
openly gay West Pointers?
One of my best friends gay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Openly gay?
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
At least things have changed.
Definitely. After, what was it? Don't say, don't tell or something. It got revoked. The military went through a transition phase where it was hard for people to come out as gay, but now where the Army's at, where gays can be open, completely fine.
One of the top military officers of the U.S. is openly gay, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, you and your sister, I read a bit of your story, getting into West Point. It's a bit different for you and for her. You were more sure of wanting to get into West Point, but your sister had second thoughts.
Kind of. I mean, with the West Point admission process, everyone has second thoughts. It's long, it's rigorous. You have to commit 8+ years of your life after. So everyone has second thoughts at some point, but just the reasons why we came to West Point were definitely different. So for me, the reason why I came to West Point, part of it was my family's huge respect the huge respect that my family had for West Point and what they did for the Philippines. And I could easily...
Which is what?
Well, MacArthur had a huge impact on Philippine history. Then we had a head of state from West Point. And those two alone just made a difference on what my dad thought a country should be run like. But they just knew, even coming in, my grandma knew that West Point was in its own league. And then my dad, when he found out that I was getting recruited by West Point, he definitely pushed me to look at it. And then I looked at it. My reasoning to go to West Point was I love the coach, I love my team, the school is fantastic, and I had a sure, successful future after school. That's why I came initially. Why I stayed is completely different. But
why is it different?
Because I didn't realize coming in how amazing the people were there. Whether it was the teachers, my coaches, the officers who ran West Point, or even my classmates, upperclassmen and underclassmen.
What's your degree? You're working towards a
business degree.
A business degree. So it might be a military academy, but
you have regular subjects, regular majors.
Oh, really?
With the addition of military majors.
So I always had the impression that when you go to West Point, it's really toward a completely military degree.
So West Point's philosophy, or so I believe what West Point's philosophy is creating all-around leaders. So if West Point cadets only focus on military subjects, they wouldn't become that all-around leader that could solve problems in a changing environment outside. So they make sure we're exposed to a lot of subjects, which at times can make school really hard, but exposed to a lot of subjects, solve very different, complex problems.
More holistic perspective of things. What about your sister? What degree is she working toward?
Economics.
Oh. And I know some of those who graduate from West Point eventually join, let's say, the CIA.
Yeah.
Is that a career option for you?
I mean, it could be, but family means too much for me to give a lot of my years away to an organization like that, and even the Army. So I'm thinking about after my obligations finished, maybe a couple of years after my obligations finished, I retire from the Army, go to the private sector and make enough money, maybe even work in the Philippines if I can.
Well, there are a lot of security consulting firms that pay handsomely.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But some of them are in the business of war.
Yeah.
What are your, we're about to pause for a break, but when we return, I'd really like to ask you about your thoughts on war, because that's what you're studying, security, peace and order, and of course war is part of, it's integral to what you're studying. So I'd really want to know what your thoughts are on peace and war, and are there battles that need to be fought and won? So open mic, we'll be right back after the short break with Josh Sembrano. We're back here at open mic with Josh Sembrano. On the break, no, I mean, let's just get this out of the way. Our dear friend from who's visiting also from the East Coast, Olive Abarquez, was she's ranting about how sports is in the Philippines, and I said earlier that I have very strong opinion. I have a very strong opinion when it comes to how we treat sports, especially sports education. I think, especially in college, I competed in high school, and I think I was pretty fast. I think I could have pursued a career, not a career, but at least I could have been active in swimming and in track if I had the chance to spend time on these sports when I was in college. But I didn't have time because our physical education curriculum is put together in such a way that you're supposed to do all these things. From dancing to all these stupid things that you don't even want to do. Yeah. And I think it's completely counterproductive, counterintuitive, because when you're old enough to choose your own course, you have to be old enough to choose your own sport. Okay. A sport that you think you're good at, or you're already good at, or you may be good at. No? So if we had the chance to do that in college, for physical education, that's 4 semesters, P11, 12, 13, 14. If, for instance, if we had the chance to focus on a sport that we were good at in high school, or, you know, then maybe we would be able to discover more talent and nurture more talent, and then we discover we have more athletes in the Philippines. But the way things are now, you know, this
The progression is too early.
The first semester is basketball, the next semester is dancing, and it's just a bunch of crap. So I hope, I don't know, Shed, in cooperation with our sports commission, maybe they can, you know, tweak our physical education program so that we can discover more talent, and the talent is nurtured, you know, further. And then from there, that's just your physical education class. And if you have the skills, and if you have the potential, then you are recommended, you know, then maybe you can be recommended to join the tryouts for the varsity or something. So anyway, going back, war.
Okay.
How does West Point, what have you learned as a student in West Point? Because I think a lot of wars that are fought or waged among nations, between nations, are not necessary. And basically, we see that most of it is for profit.
So, what I can say from what I've learned and all the discussions and the debates I've been in, and just what my instructors have said about their wartime experience, I agree with you. And I mean, there are wars that we have to fight. We have to do it. World War II, World War I. But I understand where you're coming from, where you're saying the wars are for profit. Maybe the Korean War, maybe the Iraqi War, maybe the Gulf War. All those oil wars, fine, maybe. But what I feel is that you ask tough questions. And that's why we're here today. Yeah. But it's hard. Justifying killing of people is always really hard.
Why I ask this is because at some point you will serve your country. Hypothetical situation. If you see that a war, the state of war is declared between the United States. This is a hypothetical situation against state X.
Okay.
And you see that it's obviously for profit.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line, or do you draw the line, or do you just fight blindly as a soldier?
So, as a leader of my soldiers, I keep my soldiers out of the most harm that I can, while also doing my job. We also have to remember that it's not the military sending itself to war. Because the way it's run in the United States is the civilians have full control of the military. So if the military is sent somewhere, it's because the president, also a civilian, and
Commander-in-Chief.
And other civilians, aka the Senate and Congress, sends us to these places. So it's really not our place to say, no, we can't go. And what West Point teaches us is exactly that.
Obedience.
Obedience, and where our authority lies. In the end, who pays for our paychecks?
It's a chain of command.
100%. It's all chain of command. And
so you will never find yourself walking out of something if you feel that personally it's not justified. The conflict is not justified. You will never see yourself walking out of conflict.
No, because I knew what I signed up for. Going to West Point, you have a responsibility and obligation to follow what your civilian counterpart says to do. If it was that easy as to walking away from whatever fight you didn't feel like fighting or you didn't want to fight, we wouldn't have an army like we do today.
I'm very curious about that perspective, and that's very, for me, enlightening. Because for us civilians, what we do, what we recommend, even among student leaders, is you choose your battles. You choose the battles you fight, the battles that are worth fighting for. We have that privilege, you know, to conserve our energy for the things that deserve our time and our effort.
I agree, and that's why we depend on you as civilians to elect the right officials. to make those right decisions and to choose which battles are worth fighting for, and which battles are worth deploying hundreds of thousands of soldiers to, and which battles are worth airstriking, etc., etc.
It must be very difficult. I cannot imagine myself in your situation, in the situation of a soldier. Although I've been in a position where I have to follow, of course, orders, but nothing to that extent. It's relinquishing control of things, right? Practically, you subscribe to a higher authority and to a chain of command, which is sacred in your line of work, in your line of duty. I cannot imagine myself being in a situation where I have no opinion, especially political opinion. Is that something you fight? You struggle to fight? Is that something you contend with every day? Because when, as human beings, we are cerebral, we are emotional, and we are critical minded.
Yeah.
So we watch the news, we see people suffering, we see people dying, we see people, we feel.
Yeah.
You know, we cannot be completely devoid of emotion. And that said, the emotion that we feel, that has to lead to opinion, and sometimes very strong opinion for or against something. How do you do it?
That's another great question. And you know, whenever I have second thoughts about fighting or about getting deployed, and why does it have to be me? I remember my freshman year, there were a lot of times where I said to myself, why does it have to be me? Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? And then one day I was sitting, studying, and I took a pause and I was thinking about that. And I thought about the people who didn't volunteer to go to West Point, who didn't volunteer for the Army, or didn't volunteer to be in the military. And I imagined them being forced to do it. Because if the volunteers of the US military didn't volunteer, then we'd have a draft, right? And if we had that draft, we'd be forcing civilians like yourself or other US citizens, like my cousins, like my aunts, like my uncles, like everyone back home, to who are forced to fight in a fight that they absolutely had no control of. I had the control of saying, yes, I'm gonna go to West Point. Yes, I'll join the Army. I had that control. But whenever I think of why does it have to be me? Why? Because I volunteered. And if people like me didn't volunteer, or people like my class,
be forced.
Exactly. So that gives me peace of mind.
So you still didn't relinquish control because you had control in relinquishing control. Yeah. So you made that choice.
I did.
But that's as far as you can go. You know? I just can't imagine myself. How was the application process?
Difficult. Very stressful.
You have to write essays?
Lots of essays.
Interviews?
Lots of interviews. I had...
What was your essay?
I can't even remember. I wrote 3 of them. Three questions that they ask you. Oh, one was what inspires you the most, I think. Another one is what would you do in a situation. So it was so far long ago, I can't remember.
But if you didn't apply, if you were not at West Point today, what would you be doing, and what other path would you have considered pursuing?
I'd still be swimming.
You'd
definitely,
still be swimming?
Because
okay.
Like in the States, you swim, you do your sport, and then you get recruited to college, and then that's where it's semi-professional, where you do that. So I was already getting recruited by schools, but I turned them down for West Point. The other school that I probably would have went to if I didn't go to West Point would be Virginia Tech.
And what would you have studied?
I would have swam and studied computer science.
Computer science. Do you ever discuss Philippine affairs in West Point? Like, for example, recently we won in the UNCLOS, the UN Convention on Law of the Seas, arbitration court, no, in the Hague, in the Netherlands, and we won against China. It's a landmark ruling, but of course it's very difficult to enforce. Actually, close to impossible to enforce because it's a moral victory for us. But definitely, it has implications on our foreign policy and our direction, the Philippine foreign policy direction, and it gives us leverage if we are to go back into negotiations with China. But definitely, what's taught in West Point is a U.S. perspective. Is this a subject matter that is discussed?
I mean, yeah.
The South China, the West Philippine Sea?
It definitely is, but from what I say from this point on is my perspective. And by no means is it West Point or the United States military's perspective, it is my own. Because I say that because I myself do a lot of research into Philippine affairs. I go on websites and see what's going on, the presidency, with the election, then with the conflict with China, and what I see other countries doing to help the Philippines. And I know that the United States military, one, they're conducting sea exercises right by China to enforce military might, and also donating ships and equipment to the Philippine military. And I know your current president has that on his agenda to increase Filipino military strength.
Yeah, he even wants to resurrect ROTC.
Yeah?
Yeah. So,
how do you feel about that?
It was quite difficult because I was able to go through ROTC. Maybe my first year of my freshman year, there was still ROTC, and then was lucky enough to have experienced a shift from ROTC to NSTP, which had more options. I didn't like my ROTC experience. Maybe if you had real guns, I would enjoy. But we were like walking around, marching with all these fake guns, and it just didn't make sense. But and then later on, I had to, because I was diagnosed with hypertension, so I had to be in light duties. So it just didn't make sense. I would go to school every Sunday, very early in the morning, only to sit in the canteen. So maybe if I saw more action, I'd.
I mean, I have a lot of friends in ROTC, and from what, maybe it's just the equipment of your army and the devotion to resources to ROTC that definitely would help that experience, because I know a lot of people who are officers now and cadets going through ROTC who are having an amazing experience, and it definitely helps them grow as an officer, being in that civilian environment and not a totally immersed military environment. It has its perks.
Let's talk more about the ROTC, but again, we have to pause for this short break. Open mic will be right back. We're back here in Open Mic with Josh Sembrano. So we were talking about the ROTC and the plans of Philippine President Duterte to bring back the ROTC. I think it's fine, but they have to improve how, I think they have to revisit what was done before, and they have to improve how it's being implemented here. Maybe learn from how it's done in the US, because how it was before was really uninspiring, and it was also very corrupt. You can, some students actually pay to be exempted from the ROTC, or either exempted or at least be like light duties like me, but I didn't pay for anything. It was really the clinic that recommended that. I didn't want to be in light duties. I really wanted to be out there, so where the fun and action is, because you learn things. That's right. You learn things like the art of war, for example. Sun Tzu's Art of War. You don't have to be a military person to learn from it, and extract your learnings and apply it to your day-to-day life, and how you strategize through life and business. So in the US, you didn't have to go through ROTC because you were already in West Point. But everyone else, they have to?
No. It's completely optional.
And it is.
Again,
but here the recommendation is bring back compulsory for freshmen and sophomores.
That's also different. myself don't agree with forcing people who aren't in the military to go through an officer's training course.
Well, that's what we had before.
Yeah, because you're forcing people to become leaders of other people, and them themselves as leaders don't want to lead those people. Mm-hmm. And that's unfair to those subordinates risking their lives on the front lines.
Okay, let's talk about swimming. Who do you look up to? Michael Phelps?
Oh, yeah.
I know it's very typical, but
I personally, as a swimmer to another swimmer, I look up to my dad. That's who I look up to, but what do I model my swimming after? I'd say Aaron Pearsall, best backstroker. Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay. He's an Olympic backstroker, retired after the 2008 Olympics. Still holds world records, I'm pretty sure, in the 100. Yeah.
Backstroke makes me dizzy. I think because I have mild vertigo. You can't be having vertigo and doing backstroke.
No problem.
Yeah, plus the water doesn't
help.
The water doesn't help. And yeah, it makes me really dizzy. So anyway, how do you compare swimming and military? I mean, do you learn something from one and apply it to the other, and vice versa?
So with not only the military, but with West Point or anything else challenging, that's why I love the application of sports in a young kid's life. Because from an early age, it teaches you sometimes things aren't fair, right? Like my dad making me stay inside and watch video instead of going out with friends. That, to me, at that young age, that wasn't fair. But it's something that would make me better. And a lot of the things that we do at West Point in the military is to make us better. A lot of training to what make you better. And a lot of times in sports, when you're having hard practice and you don't want to quit, but you force yourself not to quit. Same application in the military. And then, or even when you look at a practice beforehand and you see, oh, you have like 10 400 IMs and 8 200 backstrokes on all fast. That's a hard set. And even now, I'm a little nervous about swimming a set like that right now. You look at that and you still tell yourself, no, I can do this. I'm gonna push myself to do this, and it's gonna make me better, and it's gonna be worth it. Same thing with the military. You look at something hard, you look at a mission beforehand, and you think, wow, I can't do this. You push that negativity out like instantly. Fill it with positivity, I can do this, and then you execute.
So there's actually a lot.
I could go on forever.
Yeah. Do you have other involvements aside? Of course, you're in school and then you have swimming. Any other involvements?
At West Point?
Organizations, yeah.
I mean, so at West Point, how we live is by company, right? So every building is split up by company, A to I, my company, and 4 regiments. So my company is F2. And last year, I was a team leader. I was in charge of 1 or 2 people, making sure everything was okay. Like their needs were met, everything in their lives were fine, they were doing okay in school, they were doing good, okay physically. And then this summer, I was in charge of 10 plus people, making sure they could execute military missions. And I was in charge of changing them from civilians to cadets and future officers. So that's what I did over the summer before I had to go here.
Do you have to maintain like certain grades to keep on swimming?
Yes. Even though it's hard with the time commitments, I come back every night after dinner at 7 o'clock, and then I have a lot of homework, and then I have morning practice next day at 5.
Oh my God.
So that really, if I want to do well in classes that whole day, and I want to do well in swimming, I have to go to bed at 11, latest 12.
I can't do that.
It's hard.
Do you have time for love life? We have to ask that. We're in the Philippines.
Yeah, I know. It's typical.
We always care about people's personal life.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So you have a girlfriend?
I don't. I'm single.
But you say you're open to it because you say you can have time for it.
Yeah.
But you've had a girlfriend before.
Yes.
While in West Point.
Yes.
Did she break up with you because you didn't have enough time?
In a way, I guess. I don't know. It was more like I ended it. It just didn't work out towards the end. I wish it really did.
Is it a matter of schedule? No.
No, because I would make time. If I knew I knew I wanted to see her, so I made time for her and my family, and I made sure that during the weekends I was able to see my family, I was able to see her, get all my responsibilities done. It taught me a lot of time management. So.
And it was enough for her.
I guess not.
It wasn't. They have to understand.
Oh man, I hope she doesn't see
once
this.
or twice a week is enough.
Oh.
If both of you have your own priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, are you looking to date again, or you just like to focus?
I would definitely love to date again, but that opportunity hasn't presented itself to me yet.
I'm just kidding.
Oh man.
I think that's why she's here.
No.
I'm just kidding. But anyway, I read in you were featured in the West Point like website. Your family, you, your sister Kim, your dad, and it said there that a turning point was when your mom, even for your sister, was when your mom passed away, and it was sudden.
Yeah.
It was like almost 2 years ago. Or is
Yes.
It? Yeah.
Yes. Her second year is about to come on October. Yeah.
What happened to her?
Heart attack.
Oh.
It was really hard because I wasn't fully aware of the severity of the situation.
But was she as athletic as your dad and you guys?
I'd say she was more active than any of us. She was always running around doing everything.
And she was slim.
Yeah, she was very slim.
So it could be genetic.
Possibly. I think so actually.
Because heart conditions and stroke and you know, it doesn't, you know, even if you're the most athletic, even if you eat healthy. So how do you, of course you exercise every day because it's part of your training, but how do you, I mean, are you conscious about these things?
I'm conscious.
Do you go to the doctor like for a regular checkup, you know?
Yeah. And
again, what do you call this, a 2D echo and stress tests and all these things?
Well, to become an NCAA athlete, they have to listen to your heartbeat and they have to do all of that. I get checkups every year to make sure I'm okay to commission, and they take that stuff very seriously. But at this moment, I'm 100% healthy, hopefully, knock on wood. But yeah, right now I'm healthy, I'm getting regular checkups. And my mom and my grandma on my mom's side, same thing, heart condition. And I'm aware whenever I go to the doctor's office, they say, do you have any family history of heart condition or heart attack? Yes, check, yes. So that's always like back in my mind.
What's your diet like?
In season or out of, in season, so I eat a lot.
But healthy food or just anything?
A lot of carbs. I stay away from calories, I guess.
A lot of carbs. A lot of people are gonna hate you.
A lot of carbs, and during season, it's just whatever I can get my hands on.
Okay.
Because after 2 days, after a lift, I'm really, really hungry. And I probably eat, like, dinner time is my big deal since I don't have any swimming after and I can sleep if I'm really full. Sometimes probably like 3,000 calorie meals.
But I'm the same. Dinner is my biggest meal. But dinner for me is, because I'm a night owl. When Olive chats, sometimes daytime in the States is daytime for me too. So anyway, going back now, your mom passed away. It was a very difficult time, but your team helped you out. You know?
Yeah.
And I read that they really went all the way to New Jersey to be at the wake.
Yeah. And one of my, I guess this goes back to your last question, who's your swimming inspiration? But this person is my leadership inspiration, right? His name is Jun Mo Chung, and
I'm sorry?
Jun Mo Chung. He's Korean, currently an officer stationed in Italy, doing a great job. He was captain of the swim team my freshman year, and when my mom died, I was only on the team for what, like a month, 2 months, and he asked West Point if it was okay that my team go down to New Jersey to go to my mom's wake. West Point said no, and then June was like, forget it, we're going, and put everyone in all the seniors' cars, and they all went. And
how long a drive is that?
It's only less than an hour, or maybe at that time, it's probably like an hour 10, but still.
Yeah.
They came down, they surprised me. I told them they didn't need to come, they didn't need to show up. And
so
that whole time at the wake and that was a wake, they came to wake. The whole time at the wake, I was trying not to cry, stay strong, because my dad was crying, my sisters were crying, and there was a lot of people that needed, like, that saw my family, and I felt like I needed to be the one, like the older brother, to be the strongest one at that moment. And I was okay until my whole team came in, and it was just a lot of holding in tears the whole time, because that one instance of them showing that support, I knew that I picked the right school. I knew that I was with the right people. And that carried me through the whole season whenever it was really hard for me to swim, because my mom played such a big role in swimming. But it was really hard for me to swim, really hard to do practices. Really, I wasn't even ready to swim meets, because the week I came back, I had a meet against Colombia that I had to come in the lineup for. Haven't swam for 2 weeks, but I still swam because of, if my team could do that for me, I can do my races for my team.
But swimming, is always moving forward.
Yeah.
And no matter how you sweat or cry, you're underwater.
Yeah, so no one can see it.
And you move forward, whatever the case may be. Yeah.
I agree.
That's what's nice about swimming. But how, let me shift, because your mom is from Manila, your dad is from Cebu. How was it growing up in the US? And now you're going to join the military of the United States of America, a superpower. But you're a Filipino. How was it growing up? And how is it being Filipino-American in West Point right now?
Yeah, I love that question, because some people would answer, yeah, it was really hard, or yeah, it was tough. But growing up, I was always proud to be Filipino. No matter what. Even if someone said something to me, I wouldn't care, because I was proud to be a Filipino.
Have you been bullied, or have you experienced racism firsthand?
Yes, but maybe it was just some middle school jokes. I don't know. I didn't pay attention to it.
But I'm sure some would mistake you for Mexican, no?
Yeah, that was a lot. Yeah, but you know what? I'm Filipino. I'm full Filipino. People think I'm not, or I'm half, but I'm full Filipino. I'm proud of it. That pride just comes straight from my parents.
Favorite food? Filipino food.
Turon is my favorite.
Which they served, food. I think. Did they serve it during the inauguration? Yeah, of President Duterte.
My dad makes the best turon. Yeah.
That's banana. No?
Banana and like peel, and then jackfruit, and it's so good. And then after that comes pork adobo. That's my next favorite. Then after that is lechon. And then
lechon Cebu.
Yeah, that's the only one.
That's the only one. That's right. That's the only one. But there's not a variant, Karkar Cebu.
What is that?
Lechon Karkar.
Okay.
We talked about it last week, because we had Jason Atherton here.
Okay.
He's a Michelin star chef, and he opened a restaurant here in Cebu.
Kuya Jay? Is that no?
No. It's called the Pig and Palm, and we talked about Karkar Lechon. You have to try Karkar Lechon, because it comes with the drippings.
But
you go to the market. You lace your puso.
But back to your second part of your question, because I like that question too. Being a first-generation Filipino American, and my parents being immigrants, it gives me that background and that diversity within my life to be able to relate to a lot of different soldiers and be able to share my experiences that I've had not only in the States but in the Philippines with my whole family, and share that with my soldiers and hopefully even lead them better. And at West Point, it's a diverse place from different backgrounds, no matter what you may see. But it's a diverse place with a lot of different people.
And even your parents, actually, even if they're both Filipino, the sensibilities of the people in Luzon and the people in Cebu or the Visayas is actually very different. We're like the United States also.
Yeah.
Essentially different languages, but we're all one. One in diversity, right? So it's nice. It's nice talking to you, Josh. Last question before we go.
Yeah.
How Filipino are you?
Very.
Very.
Very. All Filipino.
Well, you make us proud.
Thank you.
Good luck.
It's been an honor.
Wow. So this has been another episode of Open Mic. Until next week, this is Mike Lopez. Good night and Godspeed.